And that's why I love the fact that it's becoming widespread, because it's not just developers or programmers that are having to come and think of these answers. It's different stakeholders that can come together, from ethicists to physicists, whatever the case is, can actually come to the table and come up with good ways to regulate this type of technology.
Helping leaders and professionals of the Netherlands to become even better at their work. That's the goal of DenkTank, the podcast from Denk Productions. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Christ Kolen, co-host of the show, and I'm here together with host and founder of Denk Producties, Hans Janssen.
Good afternoon.
We are recording from Customer Champions, the event about the most customer-centric companies in the world. And we have a very special guest in the show. His name is Michael Musandu. Michael, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
I will do a short introduction about your background. Michael founded the scale-up Lalaland, which, by the way, has nothing to do with the movie. Lalaland is specialized in creating models that don't exist. What? Huh? What? We'll explain later, don't worry. And Lalaland is on a mission to diversify the fashion industry and challenge the status quo when it comes to inclusivity, sustainability, and innovation. That's a big mission, Michael. We're gonna go deeper into that. Please check out lalaland.ai. And before we go to you, Michael, first questions for Hans. Hans, why did you want Michael on stage today?
Well, when you read the resume, I was wondering what age Michael has. We'll come to that later, because I think he's very young and he's achieved a lot. When we designed this event on customer champions, so which companies are excellent at creating a customer culture, are making solutions that customers really want. We had Steven van Bellegem as our lead speaker, and Steven is traveling all around the world to visit companies, also generally that take digital tools to achieve that. And I have kind of a love and hate relationship with trend watchers. Steven is not a trend watcher. You know, you have these trend watchers that they just create some nice images of dogs just walking, robot dogs just jumping around. We wanted to have people on stage that really do it every day, that use artificial intelligence for business, are successful with it, and can tell a story from within their own organization. And then people said, you need to have Michael Musandu, you need to have Lalaland, because this is actually one of the biggest disruptors that you can think of at this very moment.
Wow.
Yes.
So humble.
Yes.
What an introduction. How do you follow up from that? But
okay.
really appreciate the kind words.
Maybe we can start at the beginning. Born in Zimbabwe, raised in South Africa.
Yeah, precisely. Every story has a beginning, and that's where mine starts. Really inspired at a very young age. So I was always doing things that are not according to my age or my timeline, which just means that I met my love at a very young age, which was technology. So really, at that time, I was building low-level expert systems. So I always say in Africa, entrepreneurship there is more spurred from desperation, and in the West is inspiration. So at that time, I was working on projects that were more regulating like water distribution, because the challenge was there was not enough water for some greenhouses. So it would make a simple microprocessor, which is just like a mini computer that would then regulate water being dispersed just because it was so scarce. So that's the way I started really being hands-on when it came to technology. And I was really inspired to learn more. So I moved to the Netherlands. I did an undergrad in computer science, where I met my co-founder at the time. It was called Ugnus Rimza. He was working in fashion at the time. We built so many once-off projects together. The one that comes to mind, which was very fun, we once stayed at this student accommodation that had quite a lot of demand but low availability. So we would make a simple Python script that would automatically reserve rooms for students. Then they would pay us commission along the years. So we earned quite a lot of money from it, and plenty pats on our back, and invitation to parties from that. But it became super clear at this stage that we wanted to actually build technology that would fundamentally impact society. It wasn't just about commercializing to make money. You know, you almost have to climb your second mountain in life, which is more on the impact spectrum. And I didn't know what it was at that stage. So I joined the hype train. And as Hans was mentioning with these hypes, I joined artificial intelligence, which meant I then did a postgraduate in AI. And based on that, it became very, very clear for me. It was almost like a light bulb moment that one day synthetic media, this is about 5-6 years ago, is going to be something that we consume on a day-to-day perspective. When I look back now, it's obvious. But at that time, people thought we were also very crazy, and this is just something that would never actually come to market. And as they say, the best way to predict the future is to create it. And combining our expertise, I'm being a person of color, right? I mean, I never got to see models that look like myself. So also from family. And it meant that even shopping at specific brands, just to find models that you can actually relate to. And combining with my co-founder who was working at fashion at the time, just looking at the logistics and really understanding that pain point of why is it they cannot show all of these different models to consumers. And then it ticked that impact box of, in fact, let's actually build something that can actually change society for the better. It's not about just generating models, but actually create with an angle of having more representation, more diversity when you shop online. And then there are other byproducts that come with it. So if you are then going to support purchase decisions, you can look at lowering return rates. So fashion brands have this big monster and a dirty little secret, which is called they throw away returns that end up in landfills and incinerators. So on average, 2.3 billion tons of waste is generated.
Sorry to interrupt. Is that true? So every return from Bull or Zalando, is it thrown away?
There's a percentage. It depends on the brand. I cannot mention per brand specific, but
there are
a lot is thrown away.
A lot is just thrown
2.3 billion tons of waste is just caused in landfills and incinerators by returns that end up getting burned. Yeah. So it's cheaper for them to burn it instead of refurbishing it. And because fashion is very fast moving, it's actually really harming our environment. So that's a fact, know. And the question is, how do you actually help reduce this? So what we focus on is more supporting the purchase decision. So you look at the return reason of, okay, why are people returning things? Is it because you see, like in the return form when a consumer puts it, fills in it, is maybe because they saw the model that they saw looks nothing like them. It could be on a complexion perspective, it could be on an age perspective, and then you try attribute to actually lower these return rates. It's fashion's dirty little secret. It's happening, as I speak, day on day, especially with fast fashion brands, that it's really harming our environment. So with my co-founder, we then began Lalaland to actually target what this would look like.
Yes.
So many questions.
I first wanted to go, just because perhaps some listeners will think, synthetic design. Just give me some ideas. What? Because you don't use real people.
Yeah, that's exactly the same question I want to ask. Yeah. Tell us about models that don't exist.
Yes.
Sure. Let's actually go to that. So what we then did is, we created Lalaland. And what Lalaland does is it creates software that allows you to actually customize your own model. So think of a photorealistic resemblance of a person, but it's not real. It looks lifelike. So you can change so many different attributes. You can change the hairstyle of the model, the body size, the complexion, all of these different type of tweaks on the pose of the model. It's all generated by the computer. So none of it is real of what you see. Of course, the training data that's used for the computer to learn is based on reality. It's based on all of these representations that are online. So if you think of folks with different gender identifications, folks with disabilities, all of this data that doesn't exist, super, super, super important for us, because that's what we want to show. It's more on that representation and inclusive.
So for instance, I mean, both Chris and I are not like this, the model type of guys, right? Oh, sorry, Chris. Sorry. I am not, Chris is. So we don't have like the perfect body shapes. Yeah. So with Lalaland, can you also see how a specific suit or a specific sweater or a specific t-shirt will look on you with your height, with your body shape?
Yeah, it really depends how the brand wants to implement it. So brands that want to go full-fledged, actually what happens is they begin really early on when the product's being created. So before you're talking about a shoot even happening, when they are developing that product, like a designer or product developer, they actually design on these brand-specific models. So they can find their total addressable market with artificial models while they're designing the garment before they even produce it, before we even talk about manufacturing it. They then use those same images of the designed garment to find out what the collection is going to look like. They do B2B selling. So you have a global brand that would then have more localized models, just to also prevent like overproduction that happens. There are these things that they call dropouts in fashion. So you can help with the forecasting in terms of the quantities. So if a brand is going to retailers like the Bijenkorf, etc., they can actually use models that are now more region specific, just so that
Dutchies are longer.
exactly. So you can think of it like that. Dutchies are longer. Americans look different.
Use more fabric.
So based on these type of variations, you can actually have them in the lookbooks, is what they call them from a B2B perspective. Then, of course, direct to consumer, which is e-commerce. Then you have these images then living. So it's the whole value chain that's being disrupted. It's not just looking at consumer facing.
Yes.
It's actually supporting in these different stages. Because for the first time, you have these artificial models that you can actually have representation on across different type of stages, from product development to the whole go-to-market process.
I also, I mentioned, I remember one sentence from your talk. You said we can change the processing times from months to minutes.
Yeah.
From months to minutes. That sounds like really good. That was actually based on how to tailor the collection towards the brand that you want to work with. So they have models.
If you think of it simply, right? Like if you're a brand, we'll call it Hans's Dutch brand. Your new collection.
For instance, that's a good name.
Hans's global, worldwide company clothing.
Yes. Has to be global. So if you're looking and you've decided you're going to make T-shirts, you've created your first T-shirt, and now you want to sell it online. The process that you need to do from creating that T-shirt, like you've got that physical garment that you've manufactured maybe in East Asia, whatever the case is, to putting it online means that you need to then spin out what is a whole photo shoot. So you're going to need to hire a photographer, a model, a makeup artist,
lighting,
a hairstylist, a venue to do it. You're working with third parties like model agencies to actually see which type of models you want to book. And this for fashion brands is happening about 2 to 8 times collection by collection. It's very, very fast paced. And it's tedious. We're talking about just your hunters with a couple of T-shirts, but brands are shooting thousands and hundreds of thousands of SKUs, right? So it really scales up in terms of the problem that you have. And based on this, it takes on average, it goes from months to really looking at long periods for them to actually have that sample to on-model image that they can then put online. There are reshoots that happen. There's post-production. There's so many things. So with our software, it's very simple because you're actually starting where the product is being created. Is when you are creating your product, you can then in a couple of minutes, so literally you upload your product, you then style it according to the AI model you want. And in a couple of minutes, you have what we call a render, or it computes it. And you have this on-model image that's then freely available to use in these different stages.
No licensing, no
licensing, no buyout fees at all. So you also own the IP and the copyrights of the model. So, which is also another benefit because it's artificial, right? You can also have that ownership, which is non-perpetual. If you want to put it on a Times Square billboard, you can without having to buy extra rights of these models.
Yes. We know now, I know all listeners are thinking, a lot of people will get unemployed by this, right? There is a severe change in the production chain then if models are just let me put it bluntly, if models are no longer needed, photographers are no longer leaders, lighting crew, venue bookers, production agencies. They can all become useless in very short time from now.
Absolutely not. So I think it's a fair question to ask, and there's definitely a nuance to be had in this conversation. I think on one spectrum, you also look at the job creation opportunity. So by purchasing data, we are literally looking at communities that there are no models. They are actually selling their images for us to train. So you're actually creating a new monetization opportunity for a lot of folks. And these are folks that just look like me and you, right? It's just regular looking folks. On the other side of things, the whole goal is not to replace real models at all. It's to supplement, like supplement and supplement. I have to make that crystal clear. Which means no brand is actually going to be scaling down on real photo shoots. At least it's our goal and a whole mission to make sure that it's going to be coexisting, which means that instead of a global brand showing one model on one product, they can finally showcase 9 different models in different body sizes, different age categories, in different complexions, ethnicities, just so that the consumers can actually see on one product what it would look like across different models. You need real models. You need models that can create genuine connection with consumers. This is something that's never going to go. You need models that have social influence, the Gigi Hadids, Dr. Cruz, they can actually drive traffic towards websites. But as soon as they drive traffic towards a website, that's where we actually want to support that purchase decision where, the brand has to stop selling the dream and to start selling reality. And that's where Lalaland comes in.
Yes.
So it's supplementing.
You're bringing more reality into it, actually, if you put it very short.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have a difficult question for you.
Go ahead.
Oh, there we go.
But you are a very good speaker and clear thinker, so I think you can handle this. Now, in, say, the last 1.5 year, the AI space has exploded.
Yeah.
What's something that is, in your point of view, your opinion, a big misunderstanding or a misconception when it comes to AI in general, or when it comes to Lalaland or your mission?
I think end of the day, AI is just a tool that's here to serve humanity. And I think that's where a lot of misconception happen, where it's here for us, right? It's a tool that we need to utilize, and people who don't utilize it are the ones that go behind. It's not a tool that's going to be against us. It's here to serve humanity. So we as humanity come up with the rules, so how we actually embed it, how we actually make it deployed comes up to us as humanity. And I think that's the most important thing that needs to happen next, which is more looking at just legislation. How do you regulate this type of technology? We have the EU AI Act coming out in the next, hopefully within the next 2 years, that can actually help deploy this technology. I'll give you an example. As a company, we voluntarily have come up with our own ways to govern or deploy this, like things like coming up with strong AI principles, which means if a brand is utilizing us outside of a test environment, we always encourage that they communicate to the consumers that the consumers are looking at a generated image. It could be a watermark or it could be credited. And that's all about just transparency. Having that transparency layer is good. But that's company voluntarily. I think what the next step is really coming up with strong regulation, that together we can actually regulate this type of technology. End of the day, it's a tool that's here for us. And that's why I love the fact that it's becoming widespread, because it's not just developers or programmers that are having to come and think of these answers. It's different stakeholders that can come together, from ethicists to physicists, whatever the case is, can actually come to the table and come up with good ways to regulate this type of technology.
Yes, I would explain it to my mother like Photoshop on steroids, right? I mean, but it has so many opportunities, and you're right. I mean, there will be so many new applications of, having, instead of only models in a specific size, height, age, level of beauty, to have like an infinite number of models. But you can also like select the models or the websites perhaps that, matches the same clothing in your specific characteristic. So this really looks like a sea of endless possibilities, right?
Absolutely.
What's your hope, your dream for where do you stand in 5 years from now with your company?
I think just as Hans just mentioned, like creating this into a reality of this vision, what this ideal universe could look like. I truly believe that you can make the strides, and we've begun to actually just make it more from an inclusion perspective. I never want to feel that when you're shopping online, you don't relate to a model that you're seeing. That's crazy to me that exists today, that you can feel excluded while shopping online, because we do consume, right? And I hope this also trickles according to different type of industries. So beyond fashion, marketing, advertisement, having better personalization that just makes a world where everyone feels included. That's really my goal, and that's the whole mission, is just really to make sure that we have a world where, the market is as diverse as, the tech that's built with it.
This is a great ending, though I have one practical question. People don't see it, but what's your age? I want to know, because there's this very energetic young guy here.
Saying very smart things.
Very wise things. Yes. What's your age?
No, still young. I feel like a 27-year-old in a 40-year-old body.
Oh, dear.
But you are 27.
Yes, indeed. So still very, very young.
Okay. He's so young. We have to finish up. I want to thank you, Michael.
Yep.
Yes.
But before we really close this podcast episode, we're going to switch to your talk on the main stage.
Sure.
The listeners can gonna hear some fragments of your talk. So I'll snap my fingers and we'll switch.
In already under than 5 minutes, what happens is they get a brand-specific model that's wearing their garment, which is unprecedented. If you're thinking about what you need to do to stimulate a photo shoot, you have to hire photographers, real models, makeup artists, hairstylists. You also have to do reshoots. You're working with third parties, which are model agency. This is happening 2 to 8 times collection by collection. So it's so infeasible for a fashion brand to actually showcase multiple models on one product. So instead of waiting for months to go to market, they can now do it in a matter of minutes. So the speed to market for a lot of brands is what's become very interesting for them, to start with their product creation and have models that are brand specific. They then go all the way to retailers. So it could be from a B2B perspective to create more region-specific models. I'll give you an example. So Levi's Global could actually use models that are region-specific. Dutch models are more taller. Let's say the African models might be a different complexion, and actually sell in that internal and external processes with models that look more specific. They then use those images and also go directly to e-commerce. And that's where you have more on the product detail pages, these type of models that are now looking to support purchase decisions. And then you're targeting things like supporting a more customer experience that's more actually inclusive and diverse, and reducing things like return rates.
This was Michael Musandu, live from Leusden. Thank you very much for your inspiring story. If you enjoyed this talk, please subscribe. If you have questions, mail to podcast@denkproducts.nl. Hans, you have any final remarks?
I think you should check out Lalaland, because it's so
Lalaland.
visual. It's if you look around, browse around, be amazed.
First subscribe, then go lalaland.ai.
Yes.
Thank you.